Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Odom, the mayor of the city of New Bern. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you here this afternoon. We have a very important press conference that I'm going to quickly turn this over to our chief of police. But first, I just wanted to say on behalf of the city of New Bern, I want to thank each and every member of law enforcement for both City of New Bern Police Department and Craven County Sheriff's Office for what they do for each and every one of us day in and day out to keep us safe. Have the utmost confidence in the individual standing behind me, and I know that we will bring justice to this particular situation. So, Chief Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. Before we proceed, I wish to begin by acknowledging the tragic and senseless death of one of our citizens. Nia'Loni Sheptock was not only a valued member of New Bern, but she represented, as do all youth in our community, the future of our great city. Her death does and should, for all people, shock, sadden, and anger each of us. We wish to extend our deepest sympathies to the family and friends of Nia'Loni and commit to you that we are dedicated to bring those responsible for this senseless murder to justice. I would like to briefly introduce those who are joining me today and also acknowledge some in the room. I would like to thank, first and foremost, Alderman Royal, or Pastor Royal, for allowing us to use this facility today. Also like to recognize Alderman Best, Frill, and Brenson for being here. I'd like to acknowledge and thank my boss, City Manager Foster Hughes, for being here and for his support. Sheriff Hughes, who's standing right behind me, and his staff. District Attorney Scott Thomas, who is also standing behind me. Members of the Greenville FBI Field Office, Special Agent Brett Croft, I beg your pardon, is here. Members of the Probation and Parole Office, Craven County Crime Stoppers Program. I would further like to provide my personal thanks and appreciation for Ms. Ethel Sampson for being here today. I visited with her yesterday and asked her for her support, as she is the leading citizen of this community, and no other person in this room cares more about Duffyfield than Ms. Sampson. So thank you for being here. It means a lot to myself, and it means a lot to this community. Also want to thank members of the media for joining us today so that we can promote what we are trying to accomplish and hopefully seek to bring justice in this case. And lastly, those members of the community that are here today, or those that are watching either Facebook Live or any other medium, thank you for joining us. I will provide a brief update to the information that has already been released to the public. On Tuesday, July 4th, 2023, at 9:51 p.m., New Bern police officers responded to a report of 2 gunshot victims at the 1000 block of Lagrange Street, which is only feet away from where we are right now. Upon arrival, officers located Nathan Sheptock, 22 years of age, and Nia'Loni Sheptock, 19 months old, both suffering from a gunshot wound. Officers began first aid efforts that included performing CPR on Nia'Loni in an attempt to save her life. Both victims were transported to Carolina East Medical Center, where Nathan was treated and released, and his daughter was transported to ECU Health Medical Center, where unfortunately she succumbed to her injuries and passed on Wednesday, July 5th, 2023. Our investigation reveals that both victims were traveling in a vehicle when they were shot. The shooting occurred near the 1100 block of Main Street. Baby Nia'Loni was seated in her car seat. Nathan is the father. He was arrested on Wednesday night at ECU Health Medical Center on outstanding probation and parole warrant violation. Questions pertaining to the warrant should be directed to probation and parole. Over the past year, the community of Duffyfield and the surrounding area has seen a heightened level of violence. Much of this is attributed to gang activity. We have made several arrests and have sought to abate the problems of drug dealing, gun, and gang violence through increased uniform patrol presence, heightened intelligence, and undercover activities, specifically targeting those involved in street violence. We have partnered with local, state, and federal agencies to leverage operational, investigative, and intelligence resources to impact the problem. These assets include our partnerships with the Craven County Sheriff's Office, the FBI, the ATF, the Federal Marshal Service, Probation and Parole, the Craven County District Attorney's Office, and the United States Attorney's Office, just to name a few. Many of these partners are present here today. I further want to provide our appreciation to Chief Williams of the Wilmington Police Department for his quick response and assistance in their help providing accelerated processing and uploading of our ballistic evidence into the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, otherwise known as NIBIN. In fact, members of the New Bern Police Department are in Wilmington right now in our efforts to support the investigation of what we are here today for. We share the frustration of our community regarding the lack of public support for those who not only have the knowledge, but the ability to help prosecute violators, but choose to remain silent. This is a national problem that must be solved and fixed. We have been to too many crime scenes where multiple victims and witnesses, all present during the commission of gunfire and other acts of violence, only to hear the common response, "I didn't see anything," or "I don't know anything." I wish to repeat what many police chiefs, sheriffs, and prosecutors have said for years. Silence is complicity. There is no doubt that those responsible for the acts of violence in our community could have been identified earlier, and our efforts to hold them accountable for their criminal activities would likely have prevented this homicide. We call upon all to end this code of silence. We need to keep our children and our community safe. We have increased opportunities for citizens to share information anonymously if that's what they wish, either by way of our TIP 411 program or the Craven County Crime Stoppers program. I have been advised that the Craven County Crime Stoppers program has approved a cash reward for the arrest and conviction of those person or persons responsible for this crime. This tragic incident shocks the conscience of our community. I implore anyone with information about the shooting to contact the police department. We have a responsibility to the family and to our community to bring the individual or individuals who committed this heinous act to justice. If you have any information that could assist in this investigation, please contact the New Bern Police Department's Criminal Investigative Unit, the CIU, and request to speak to the CIU supervisor at 252-672-4253, or they can contact the Craven County Crime Stoppers at 252-633-5141. I will address questions and have additional comments after I give an opportunity to allow a partner in what we are trying to accomplish in New Bern and Craven County an opportunity to provide some insight, and that is Sheriff Chip Hughes.
Thank you, Chief. This should be a time when we all come together to celebrate all the wonderful things that are happening in this county and the city, but it's not, however. The murder of this child is unexcusable. It will not be tolerated. My commitment to our chief and our elected officials in this county and city is that the full weight of my office with our staff will be behind this. My message to these criminals that think it's okay to terrorize our neighborhoods, this is your warning. We're coming after you with everything that we've got. Make no mistake about it, and we will get you. Our partnership with the city of New Bern has never been stronger. It is times like this when we will shine. I'm just sorry that it has happened at the expense of an innocent child that was needlessly taken from their family, and my heart goes out to that family. The Vice Chair of our County Commissioners, Denny Booker, joins me today in promising that the county will stand behind the city of New Bern, and this is not just a New Bern problem. It's a problem for all of us, our community, my office, the city of New Bern, and my commitment to your chief has been from day one that we will eradicate these criminals from your neighborhoods. You will be able to walk down your street in safety. You will be able to sit on your front porches again and enjoy the neighborhoods and watch your children play in the front yard without fear of them being shot or gone after by these criminals. So once again, this is a warning to the criminals that think it's okay to participate in these criminal activities in our neighborhoods. It will not be tolerated, and we are coming after you.
Thank you, Sheriff. I am very pleased to have a relationship with the prosecutor's office. We have seen the relationship of law enforcement and prosecutors in other cities in our country. That does not occur here, or at least the negative relationship does not occur here. We have a very strong prosecutor, and he has committed his resources to assist us, and I would like to give District Attorney Scott Thomas an opportunity to provide any comments that he would like to make.
Thank you, Chief, and I too join the Sheriff and Chief in expressing our condolences to the family, and it's good to see my good friend Reverend Sampson here. Appreciate all you mean to this county and this community. My office works very closely with law enforcement, not just after charges are filed, but during the course of investigations. And just like this case and many other cases, we work closely with law enforcement to be sure that good solid cases are built so that we can prosecute those cases when they get to court. The problem we've seen for too long now, though, is that law enforcement cannot charge a criminal for a crime unless we have citizen involvement and witnesses who will come forward and provide information. And my office certainly cannot prosecute a case unless we have citizen involvement and witnesses who are willing to come forward with information about a case. As everyone understands, you've got to have probable cause to charge a crime, and then you've got to have proof beyond a reasonable doubt to get a conviction in court. And we simply cannot do it alone. We have some of the best law enforcement in this nation right here with regard to our Sheriff's Office, our Police Department, the SBI, the FBI, and all of our law enforcement partners. But we cannot do this job and this work alone. We have to have full community involvement, community support, and community participation. And sometimes people say, well, I don't want to get involved in a particular investigation or prosecution of a case because it really doesn't affect me. You know, no one in my family or my household was harmed in this situation. But you can see now how it has expanded out. And this, the gunshots and the gunfire that we're experiencing right now in the city of New Bern, they don't always hit their target. Sometimes they hit someone else, as in this case. Sometimes they hit another vehicle. Sometimes they hit a household. Sometimes bullets go flying through households where peaceful, law-abiding citizens are in there minding their own business. So it really does affect all of us. It affects everybody who lives in this county and in this city. And I can tell you I'm committed at my office to do everything we possibly can to provide as much safety and law enforcement and justice as possible in this case and in all cases. And I know the Sheriff and the Chief share that commitment as well. So my office will continue to do everything we can working with law enforcement throughout the course of investigations and also for tough prosecutions once those cases get to court. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Regarding our current and future plans, as I have stated, we have formed a coalition of law enforcement stakeholders dedicated to focusing on this issue. behind me to the right is a member of the FBI. And she has indicated that I am free to say this, that the FBI is here to assist local law enforcement in this issue, and you will likely see FBI agents in this community helping the law-abiding citizens in our endeavors to make this a safe community. We wish to partner with the community by way of a community policing approach to be more effective and efficient in making Duffyfield and New Bern safe. The New Bern PD and our partners will be evidence-based and intelligence-led in how we focus on street violence. The community and law enforcement have a common goal. The criminal element must understand that New Bern and Craven County is not a welcoming place for them to set up and conduct business as usual. We will use every legal and reasonable means to keep our community safe. We should not have to mourn the death of a child as we are doing today. This community will see more police officers in Duffyfield. Our endeavors will include more engagement opportunities with our youth, more foot and bicycle patrols. We ask the community to help in making sure predatory opportunists who wish to victimize our community to think twice before coming to New Bern or Craven County. Let me be clear, and my message is to the gangbangers, the drug dealers, and those that wish to victimize the innocence of our community. You are not welcome here. If you wish to engage in drug dealing, gun or gang violence, we will prosecute you to the fullest means possible, whether that's in state or federal court. Today, we will continue our neighborhood canvassing. Law enforcement personnel will continue to knock on doors and solicit support. This initiative will continue until we are satisfied that we have reached every potential witness. Community support has proven to be the most effective way to stop violence, or after the fact, prosecute those who victimize our community. These conclude my comments and remarks. I'll be glad to take any questions that you may have. However, we will not comment on any investigative matters as we do not wish to jeopardize any future prosecution. With that, I open it up for questions.
Do you know if the shooting happened inside or outside?
We believe the shooters were outside in public, and as I stated, the victims were inside a vehicle. Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that it was a targeted shooting, or was it someone where they were just driving and they got hit by random?
I would prefer not to address that motive. That is investigative material.
You mentioned gangs. Are we talking about local chapters of national gangs, or are we talking homegrown gangs? How much organization?
That is a fair question. I think it deserves an answer. We have both.
You said that there was a reward. How much?
I don't have the amount, but I'm certain Crime Stoppers would be able to provide that.
I think it's 1,000 right now, Chief.
As it stands right now, $1,000.
You said that arrests have been made. How many have been made?
Over the course of the past 18 months, I can get you that exact number, but it has been significant. We have arrested a significant number of subjects involved in the activities I've just described. I don't have that number for me right now.
But no one directly related to this case
No.
yet?
With respect to this homicide and malicious assault investigation, it is still active, and I am optimistic that we will clear this case. This gentleman right over here.
Yes, is there a time frame on a case investigated? Is there a time limit on a cold case? How long does the investigation in a case the time frame, how long is it investigated?
Every homicide that occurs in New Bern is never closed unless it's cleared. The case may, or some homicide cases do fall into the cold case category, which we revisit frequently. This particular investigation could last as long as another 2 days, or it could last another 2 years. We will keep our focus and our foot on the accelerator, and again, I am optimistic we will clear this case.
So after 2 years, is the case closed,
No,
cold?
no, sir.
or ongoing?
A homicide is never closed. Victor Taylor.
Yes, sir. How you doing, Chief? The question is, you said the father was arrested in Wednesday at ECU. Was that past-related crimes, or was that had something to do with this case? Can't say.
I can say it does not involve this case to my knowledge, but the reasoning for the violation, it's a probation and parole violation, I would direct you to probation and parole. I don't know what the justification was.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Chief, this might be a better question for the district attorney, but in going back to the gang activity, does North Carolina provide sentencing enhancement for gang-related criminal offenses, and have you applied any of those enhancements in cases inside of Craven County?
Yeah, in a situation where we can prove that, we can seek an enhancement. North Carolina has a structured sentencing program, and that's how we sentence. And that's based on a prior record level and also the offense that they're committed on. And anytime we can utilize any enhancements, we do that. One thing you have to do in order to use that is to validate that they are a member or involved in a gang. And sometimes that becomes a little difficult. But in situations where we think that's appropriate, we certainly try to pursue it and use all aggravating factors that we can in sentence.
And have you been able to pursue any of those enhancements inside of the?
The most of the ones that we've had, it's been difficult to validate as a gang member. So, but we can use other enhancements. We can use prior record level and aggravating factors in sentencing, and we often do that because those are easier to utilize and to prove in the sentencing process.
On the gang activity, how long a history does it have in this area? And also, more for the sheriff, how active is the gang activity in places such as Coke City, Havelock, and those areas?
Fair question. I've been the chief of police here for 2.5 years, and I can tell you that we've had gang problems for as long as I've been here, and I am certain that it didn't start upon my arrival. I do not have a historical time frame as to when it started here. But I would let Sheriff Hughes speak to your question about the greater county area.
So prior to myself coming in office, we had active gangs here, gangs that are known nationally as well as local gangs that are organized, some not as much as others, that have preyed on our citizens. That's been happening for years here, long before the chief and myself got into the offices that we're in right now. However, we're dealing with it differently now.
Now, how much do they prey on each other that causes this violence?
I think you see that happen often. Yeah, they do. And we do at times have it in the county as well. But my philosophy and the chief's philosophy is there are no boundaries. So if we have activity in the county that suggests it's gang activity, the chief and I agree that's our problem, as we now have one team that focuses on going after gang members and folks that do this type of criminal activity, regardless of where they are in the county. We have one team that works together to go after these people and lock them up, and we're good at it. Our staff is phenomenal. We've got the best law enforcement officers that are out there day in and day out, and they know what they're doing. So when the chief says this thing will come to a resolution at some time, it will. Absolutely, I have no doubt in my mind. And that's based on the proven ability, merit, and qualifications of our staff.
Sheriff, it's kind of a question for both yourself and the chief. If there's an issue inside of a specific community, is our local government providing you? Do you have the resources that you both need to have an increased law enforcement presence to do what you need to do to address this issue?
Yep, great question. as we worked, and that was one of the reasons why the chief and I from day one, I mean, he was, the very first day he was here, he came and saw me at my office. We both agreed that we needed more resources. And we both agreed that working together was going to kind of close the gap a little bit on our needs. Since then, I think, you will see that both of us have elected officials in county government and locally that support law enforcement and do try within reason to give us the resources that we need. However, that's why we also have partnerships with the ATF, the FBI, the State Bureau of Investigation, all the other state agencies and the federal agencies as well to help close the gap. But there will always be additional needs. I don't think at any time we will be fully staffed with all the members that we need to address all the different type of crimes that we now have to deal with. So it's an ongoing process. It's moving. But I do thank my commissioners for their support. School safety has been a #1 priority for them. We get school resources funded, school resource officers funded every year to address these things. And that's how we're working with these youth, as the chief mentioned earlier, working with them to try to give them a positive outlook in law enforcement relations and what we're here to do. And hopefully we can mentor them at a young age so they help us be part of the solution.
And I know you guys said you're obviously going to be addressing this as a team, but if we can just get a little bit more specific, and for the agent, and I apologize, I couldn't hear whether they said state bureau or federal bureau, and if you could clarify what your role in this specific investigation would be.
She's with the FBI, and she is here, as is the bureau, from Charlotte on over to Greenville, is here to support the locals.
Can we have the spelling on her name, please?
Ma'am?
Sure, Bravo, Romeo, Alpha, Tango, Tango.
Thank you.
So they are very supportive. They do come in with additional resources that we don't have here at the local level. They're great at putting together data, crunching intel, and that's what we lean on them for. As well as, they're going to have boots on the ground here also.
And then after we leave here, you guys said you're going to be doing a canvass of the area. Is that with community members or is that with law enforcement only?
That's with law enforcement only at this point, and the purpose behind that is when we speak to a potential witness, we want to obtain that statement so that it remains within our chain of custody. We want to be able to collect that information and provide at least some assurance that the information is captured correctly. And I'll piggyback off of what the sheriff said. There's only a finite amount of resources that the city has. And the commitment of the mayor and the board of aldermen and the city management has been to ensure that I have the resources that I need to be able to respond and address the needs of this community. I'm incredibly thankful that the board and the mayor approved pay raises for my officers to help in the recruitment and retention. Would it be nice if there was a blank check? But nowhere in this country are there blank checks that I could just buy whatever I want to. But I have the resources and the ability to tap into other law enforcement entities. I talked about my relationship with a chief 2 hours away in Wilmington who called me yesterday and offered his assistance. So within our law enforcement community, if I don't have something, I can find it. Yes. Yes.
I was going to have you clarify the spelling of the child's name. I've seen different versions online and from the family and stuff, so I just wanted to.
Of course. It is N as in Nancy, I as in Ida, A as in Alpha, hyphen L-O-N-I. That is the name that was given to law enforcement. I apologize if I am pronouncing the name incorrectly. Over the past probably 24 hours, I have sought and failed to speak with the mother, who I went out to her house 3 times in an attempt to express to her our condolences to her and her family. And wanted to be able to understand and be able to say that child's name correctly, unfortunately. And I don't blame her. She is going through a great deal right now, and I'm sure she wishes to retain her privacy. So again, if I have mispronounced her name, I do apologize. Yes, ma'am.
About how long do you think that canvassing will go on for? Like, say for instance, a week or so goes by and nothing really comes of it. Like, how long are you guys considering continuing to go on canvass?
Right. So when I said until we're satisfied that we were able to identify any potential witness, today is not the first time we've done this canvass. We were out last night. Some people are home, some people are not home. And there are value in knocking on a door twice. There is value in continuing the pressure, for lack of a better way to describe it, to our community that we want this information. And there is also value in talking to a local law enforcement agent and then staring at an agent that's wearing an FBI jacket. That says to the community, we are serious. I hope that answers your question. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk with the street violence and the gang violence. So can the community feel safe here in Duffyfield, or is this still like an ongoing thing that's going to take years and years? Just with this occurrence being so shocking, like, can they feel safe?
A 19-month-old was murdered on Tuesday, and the person responsible has yet to be arrested. I am not going to tell this community that they are safe. I need them to partner with us to make it safe. As long as that predator remains out there, we are all unsafe, not just Duffyfield. I will tell this community, when you see a member of law enforcement, they are here to protect you. We want the young people of Duffyfield to look upon men and women that wear a uniform that looks like mine or looks like the sheriff to know that we are their advocate. Stop a patrol car and ask if they have a basketball or a football in the trunk of their car. And you're more likely to find out they do, because we bought them for our patrol officers so that we can engage our youth in activities that is fun for them. Whatever we can do to rebrand law enforcement, but that's a community engagement piece. I'm talking about violence abatement. No amount of community engagement with a gangbanger is going to impact safety. We're beyond that. When we're dealing with this level of violence, somebody who has no compassion for their actions or their consequences, and they are putting rounds down range, and God forbid somebody is standing in the way or is in the way, that makes us all unsafe. Silence is complicity. If you remain silent and said nothing, look at yourself in the mirror, because you're complicit in all the future violence that you allowed to continue. I am sympathetic to anyone who says, I fear for my own safety. I'm sympathetic. I do not blame you for that feeling. That doesn't mean you can't contact us anonymously and tell us the information we need to prosecute this case. I hope that answered your question. Barbara.
Yes, good evening. I know you said that you're going to have more police presence in the Duffyfield community. Do that mean all day and all night? And another question I want to ask, I know you used to have curfews. Are you still going to come back with the curfews? And then if you do, for what age group?
So We do have a curfew in New Bern. There is a narrow approach to how we address our community so they feel as if we are guardians and not warriors. We do not want the people of Duffyfield or anywhere else in this community to believe that we are treating them differently. You're going to see a lot more police officers. And those people that are involved in violence, your interaction with law enforcement is going to be different. The issue of curfews, we will evaluate that to determine whether or not we want to be aggressive in terms of that. Now, I will say, if your child is under the age of 18 and it's 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, they shouldn't be out there. They need to be home. Barbara, did that answer your question?
Yes, I mean, but the police presence, would it be all day and all night, or do you have a certain time that you're going to be in the daytime, a certain time at night?
Our intention is to be in this community, and let me be clear, our intention is to be in every community 24/7. New Bern has community policing districts, and we have an officer assigned to each one of those districts. And it is our intention that they are seen in all communities. But we have a heightened need to be in Duffyfield, Craven Terrace, Trent Court, Pembroke, and a few other places throughout this community. It does not take a brain surgeon to figure out that you place your resources in the places that need it the most. Violence is a place where we need to put as much law enforcement pressure as possible. So, day and night. Yes, Barbara. Yes, sir, in the back.
My condolences to the family. Billy Moore, I'm representing Everyday Reporting, a youth program here in the city. We did a preventative young adult violence program several weeks ago at the Flame. On a bigger picture, not minimizing your investigation, but just as a strategic, holistic scope of this violence, which is ongoing. I have been voicing my opinion about the recreation department putting boots on the ground, getting activities in all of these communities, targeting these communities that you just mentioned. And I think as we're awaiting the Standing Recreation Center, which is a great thing. That's my father, and we're anticipating that great move. But we're moving into 5 years, 6 years without a standard of influence in the community, a place where young people can go. I think that's part of the strategic overall plan, where community engagement happens better when we have individuals who have influence in our community that people trust, that we can mediate for you guys to help move this further along than the struggles that you've been having with the complicit silence. But breaking that code of silence, it has to be integrated with some people in our community who has influence, who has heart and passion for the people of this community to engage with you. And that just needs to broaden, you just need to broaden your scope of what you're doing. And I'll leave that like that.
Well, thank you for those comments, and I agree with those. And there is no shortage of people in this community. Ms. Sampson, Reverend Sampson, is a perfect example of that type of person you're describing. Would a Stanley White facility be extremely helpful, or would it have been extremely helpful for other opportunities? Yes. The city has partnered with the Omega Center to try to utilize that space. So it's not for a lack of trying. The idea that you're going to turn a battleship around in a short amount of time, I understand that process. But we will continue, and what you are describing is exactly what community policing is all about. Oh, we got one more question. And we'll end it with this last question unless somebody really has a pressing need. Yes, sir.
I was out to the Stanley White approximately a month ago, and I had my grandkids out, and just another play, just to have a place to roam. And the area that they had to play in, I guess while the gym was in the process of being built, the grounds itself were very, very, they weren't even, my grandson fell down and he got a bunch of splinters due to the surface of just the grounds. Is there any way, while we're waiting on I know this is off the topic, but those areas that are available for kids to go and play, they're not really to the standard where one would go and have activities, have fun. There's dangers there.
I will tell you that the Director of Parks and Recreation
Yes.
is extremely sensitive to trying to make that footprint at the old Stanley White as usable as possible. So I will bring your concerns to her.
Okay.
So with that, again, I want to thank everybody for being here today. I certainly appreciate the questions. I hope that when you leave today, you leave with a mission and an understanding as to how we need to, as a community, change. When we have an update, my staff and I will ensure that prompt public releases are provided to the media. Thank you.